Let's do our snap judgments. Matty Johns, off round 4. Snap Fitness on a mission to help you feel fantastic. So we go back to Thursday night at Combank. Eels 17 defeat the Panthers 16. I mean, so much has been written, said and seen about this. But at the end of the day, it's a great case for playing the 80 minutes of football, making sure that you're there at the final whistle, as straightforward and as cliched as that sounds.
Yeah, that's right. Just being in there. And I said before, that's what the Dolphins do, that they base their game on just grinding away. It's not what you're doing in the 20th minute, it's what you're doing if you're in the contest with 10 to go.
Your snap judgment on the West Tigers. They go down to the Melbourne Storm on Friday night at Amy Park. Where does the first win come for the Tigers?
Do you know what, Matty? They're showing glimpses. That's what they're showing. You know, there's a football side and there's combinations forming bit by bit. I like Wakeham in the side. I think he makes a difference. What's interesting, but in both games, Matty, in the second half, there's been a noted tactical adjustment from the Tigers, and their football has suddenly become more run bias compared to pass first, and it worked for them. You know, like if you go back and watch Brooksy's game, in the first half, and I know we always come back to Brooksy, but I think he's symbolic of the side. In the first half, he's trying to finesse too much. He's trying to, weave balls through gaps, and he threw one almost through a teammate's chest by the want of trying to get it to the winger. In the second half, you'd see, I don't know what had happened at half time or going in, but he was at his wit's end, and he channeled that into just running direct and hard and fast, and things started to happen. Now, that's Brooksy's game, right? Now, you shouldn't just run for the sake of it. People say, get out there and run the football. You don't run for the sake of it. But what you do is you simplify your game. You look up, if you like what you see, you take them on and challenge them. Otherwise, you feed the ball early to the men on the outside. That's my advice to Brooksy. Just simplify your game. Because when they started to do that the week before against the Bulldogs, they looked terrific. And there was a little period through the game they did that against the Melbourne Storm, and I thought they showed a bit. So there's who they got this week? They got the Broncos this week. Well, I tell you what, Sheens and the side should be thinking to themselves, well, we've got the Broncos. They're 4 from 4, but they're coming off a really emotional game against the Dolphins. And just get in there. And rather than get out there and throw the ball around and try to win the game in the first 20 minutes and end up beating yourself in the first 20 minutes, take a leaf out of the Dolphins' book. Play conservative, right, and just put yourself in a position with 10 to go, you're with a chance to win it.
They got the Broncos, then the Eels in round 6, and then they have the bye. Speaking of the Broncos, so 18-12 over the Dolphins. Snap judgment on the Dolphins, Matty. Is this the real test for them now? I guess there was a lot of adrenaline that would have played into that first 3 weeks and emotion, but now Felice Kafusi's still going to be out. Sean O'Sullivan's a big out, and he's going to be out for a long time. So is this where the real heat comes on the Dolphins?
Yeah, no doubt. It's depth, Matty, and you are right. There's been a lot of emotion in their football early. And now, like Wayne said last week, they asked him, pressure and a stressful week. And he said, what are you talking about, pressure? He goes, these sort of games are the easiest in the world to prepare for. Well, now they've got injuries. The whole... that sort of peak to round 4 of taking on the Dolphins, the Broncos, that's happened. And what you're going to see from here towards the end of the year, you're going to see the Dolphins, in my opinion, ride the roller coaster. They will grind, and they'll always put in a good showing. But every now and then they'll go out there and there'll be a bit of a, I think from here on, you'll see every now and then just a bit of a flogging. They can't afford to be down too much. There's sides in the league that can play at 85% and win. They're not one of them. They've got to be up every single week, and you just can't do that.
They got the Dragons next up, the Cowboys and Titans. So Cowboys 12-point winners in Townsville, but the Titans injury woes. Kieran Foran, calf muscle, AJ Brimson, hamstring, Sammy Verrills out with the collarbone. This is a very similar test for them at the moment.
Yeah, talking to Sam Verrills last night, they've got a lot going on at the moment, a lot of injuries. You just completely changed the spine of that football side, which is a real shame because they've been playing some really good football. But Foreign's, AJ Brimson speaks for himself. He's a handful. He just buzzes around the field. Foreign is a huge loss. He was the side that gave him belief and direction. And and then you got Sam who's out. It's a tough spot. I come back to the fact though, Matty, it's a big job for Justin Holbrook, righto, is to say, righto, this is how we've planned to play this year. However, we've lost our spine. We're going to have to adjust. Righto, boys, let's work on a style of football that's going to make us primarily hard to beat. So that's what they need to do until they start to get their troops back.
The bye has come at a very good time for the Titans this time around. The Rabbitohs by 1 point over the Seagulls. We've been through that. The Warriors were impressive against the Bulldogs. Sean Johnson is a happy footballer at home at the moment, and he's back in control of that Warriors team. Knights 24 over the Raiders 14. They played with intent. Lockie Miller is rapidly becoming a ball-playing rugby league player. The Knights scoring 3 tries in the opening 9 minutes of the second half. And then very quickly you snap judgment on the Sharks, 40 defeating the Dragons, 8. Nico Hines, what a masterclass.
What a performance from Nico Hines. Nico is starting to move into that very elite class of footballer that starts to make all the players around them better. That is the very elite of sport. A person can go out there and be brilliant individually, but to have the presence that when you're not there, all those players are 6 out of 10. But when you walk into that side, immediately everyone around you elevates by your presence and what you give them. What you give them individually, not just collectively as a side. He was fantastic. And they just look a completely different side. I had concerns around the Sharks in the first few rounds. I thought their defence was flimsy. And it was interesting when Nico came into the side, everyone said, well, he'll fix it. And I said, but hang on, Trindle's been their best player. So there's a lot of things to fix, but not just Nico's performance, Matty. It was just the belief right across the board that made all the difference.
Yeah, and they've got the Warriors. Hines, 5 line break assists, 3 try assists, 3 tackle breaks, 4 offloads. He ran for 150 metres. No wonder the ice pack was on the groin at the end of that one. Snap Fitness with you every step of the way. Snapfitness.com.au